Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're popping the hood on the massive, world-changing machinery of public policy. If you've ever wondered how large-scale societal change actually happens behind closed doors, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to break down this huge ecosystem so you walk away with a concrete understanding of how it all works and how you might even jump in and become a part of it.
$6 trillion. Yep, 6 trillion with a T. That is the annual U.S. federal budget. We're starting with this absolutely staggering number to prove a point right out of the gate. Public policy is literally the ultimate lever for making large-scale impact. We're talking about decisions that shape global markets, influence other nations, and figure out how we respond to massive national challenges. When you're dealing with a scale of this magnitude, even the tiniest shifts in policy, they can profoundly affect millions of lives.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, defining the policy ecosystem. Second, the 4 stages of policy. Third, why policy needs you. Fourth, where you could work. And finally, launching your policy career. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. Defining the policy ecosystem. So what exactly is public policy? Fundamentally, it encompasses all government decisions and actions, or fascinatingly, even deliberate inactions, to address public issues. It's an entire ecosystem of economic and political mechanisms affecting our daily well-being. Think about it. It's not just about passing dry, boring laws. It includes how governments spend money, how they regulate industries, and even the public statements our leaders choose to make. Actually, policy goes way, way beyond formal written laws. It changes through a surprising number of channels. Take diplomatic whispers, for example. Back in 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, a private, unofficial meeting between Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy and the Soviet ambassador literally helped diffuse a global nuclear crisis. No laws were passed, right? Or consider the 1994 congressional hearings on tobacco. Again, not laws. They were hearings that exposed industry deception, completely shifted public opinion, and eventually led to a massive $368 billion settlement. Policy absolutely doesn't have to be legally binding or permanent to drive massive, real-world change. Section 2, the 4 stages of policy. The whole process builds across 4 really critical steps. Step 1 is research. This is all about identifying problems and dreaming up proposals. Step 2 is advocacy, where you build momentum and coalition support for those proposals. Step 3 is adoption. That's turning the proposal into official government directives, like voting on a bill or signing an executive order. And finally, step 4 is implementation, translating those written directives into actual real-world action. And the crucial thing to remember here, policymaking doesn't just happen at the very top with elected officials. Staff members and civil servants play incredibly central roles at every single stage of this process, from drafting the text of a bill all the way to enforcing the rules. Now, here's the catch. You can have a flawlessly adopted policy that completely falls apart in execution. A classic example is the rollout of healthcare.gov back in 2013 under the Affordable Care Act. Legally speaking, a success. But in the real world, kind of a disaster at first. The website crashed within 2 hours. On day 1, despite hundreds of thousands of visitors, a grand total of 6 people successfully enrolled. Just 6. All while costs eventually skyrocketed to $1.7 billion. So execution matters just as much as the initial idea, which is exactly why the government desperately needs really talented implementers. Which brings us to Section 3, why policy needs you. Consider this pretty striking warning from a former Congressional Budget Office director. Public policy has great power, both to improve people's lives if it is planned and executed well, and to cause significant suffering if it is not. That really anchors the immense real-world stakes of government work. The decisions made in these offices absolutely dictate the realities of millions of people. There's a profound sense of responsibility here. And that leads to a very famous mantra in DC, people are policy. Even the absolute best policy ideas only create an impact through the daily actions, the interpretations, and the communications of individual staff members. The government isn't just some faceless machine. It's entirely made up of individuals making choices every single day. You absolutely do not need to be a senior elected official to save lives and change the world. Look at some of these individual heavy hitters. Dr. Matthew Melselson's research in the 1960s directly catalyzed a landmarked global treaty prohibiting biological weapons. Abe Sutton helped design an initiative that totally transformed kidney care and organ donation for Americans. Eric Van Giesen led the rapid development of mobile ICUs for Ebola patients, getting them built in just 6 weeks, which, by the way, became completely critical later during COVID-19. We are talking about individual staff members, researchers, and experts who drove monumental change. Section 4, where you could work. When evaluating a career, you really have to consider your personality fit across the three main federal arenas. If you thrive in chaos, Congress is dynamic, super fast-paced, and heavily reliant on networking. You get high influence very early in your career, but the trade-off? Usually long hours and lower pay. Then you have the executive branch, which includes over 100 different agencies. It's much more bureaucratic and structured, but it offers deep specialization, incredible scale, and great stability. Finally, think tanks. These are research-heavy and methodical, generally offering a better work-life balance, though you are slightly removed from the direct execution of the policy. Honestly, it's all about finding the vibe and culture that matches your working style.
Oh, and we definitely can't forget the state level. States often act as laboratories of democracy. A lot of massive federal decisions actually start as innovative policies pioneered at the state level first. For instance, early healthcare expansions in Massachusetts deeply influenced the Federal Affordable Care Act. So state governments offer incredible opportunities to shape policy a bit closer to home.
Section 5, Launching Your Policy Career. Okay, so here are your actionable entry points. Graduate programs like a Master of Public Policy or specialized certificates in science, technology, and policy are fantastic foundations. If you already have a technical background or a PhD, fellowships like the AAS or Merzion are incredible bridges right into the policy world. And of course, internships, whether that's a semester in DC or working on Capitol Hill. I do want to remind you that getting your foot in the door, even through an internship, is often the hardest part. Just prioritize starting somewhere, even if the role isn't a perfect fit right away, because once you're in, your network is going to help you pivot. Formal training, like getting an MPP, gives you kind of a unique superpower. You learn to blend hard quantitative data analysis, like coding in Python, with deep interdisciplinary insights from political science, economics, and climate studies. You aren't just learning lofty mission statements. You're learning the hard math of what is actually feasible, combined with the political strategy of what can actually survive the legislative process. Basically, you're learning how to genuinely change human behavior across diverse environments.
So we've covered the definition, the stages, the stakes, the locations, and the entry paths. This massive $6 trillion machinery of government desperately needs clear thinkers, dedicated researchers, and flawless implementers. The mechanisms of policy are literally waiting. The only question left to ask is, what problem will you solve?